honestly, there was a lot that happened in this episode, but they made the choice to make this the centerpiece. Some episodes
you
have
said
dragon
earlier
battles.
there was no set piece. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah, well, I guess I stand corrected. This was the set piece of the episode. It was this sexual ballet
extravaganza.
Yeah,
I liked flesh mural, which is what you went with
flesh
earlier.
mural. Yeah. I have a couple of things. Either one of you answer any of these things to me. I'm just going to point out some observations, okay? So let's just go before the pleasure house. I think Daemon flying over the boat and buzzing the tower, so to speak, in the earlier scene.
So to speak, yeah.
Real Maverick energy there. Yeah.
There's a little bit of that feels like a little bit more of a loaded gesture after we see what happens in the rest of the episode, correct?
Yeah. A little just the tip foreshadowing.
Oh, Jesus.
No?
For me.
Yes.
Joe?
For me, I thought an important moment there is how like genuinely and like tenderly concerned Kristen Cole seemed to be for Rhaenyra.
Yes.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
To go from the unpredictability of Daemon to the safe, nurturing embrace
arms of
Sir Kristen Cole.
All right. So when we get into the pleasure zone, I guess I just want to ask this.
Are you saying pleasure zone because you said buzz the tower and you have danger zone in your head right now? Should we do like a little remix right here?
Running out of ways to say like brothel or like
fuck palace. I was just thinking of the auto zone. Anyway, let's talk about the pleasure zone.
I guess I'm going to ask this question on a podcast. Daemon couldn't perform because he chronically fails to do so, or because the little voice inside his head told him not to have sex with his niece?
I think this is going to be the rift that drives House of R apart, that tears us apart. Because I think it was more than just a performance issue for Daemon. I think there's something. Yeah. Okay, never mind. We agree. Never mind. I thought Mallory, given the barrage of texts we've gotten from Mallory on this issue, I thought she was going to come down firmly on it was a performance issue. But
so the read that we have is that they're getting after it. It's getting hotter and hotter and steamier. He then all of a sudden stops kissing her and is like, we can't. But she's also like, you definitely want to though, right? Right. Like I'm trying to like read the choreography here. I really like, it's really interesting that this is what I'm discussing on it.
No, but keep going. Yeah, keep giving us.
But I think it's worth noting because it's like, what are his designs on her? And like, what's the purpose of this? Like they obviously have chemistry.
He's like, ever since he first got here when she was 14, gross, but definitely in this episode, he's looking at her like a cat looks like a bowl of cream. Yeah. Like that is something that he has been doing. Okay.
On the bridge at Dragonstone, it's sparks are flying.
Sparks aplenty. Another question to ask, and you might ask it, Chris, is like, about how much of this is a calculated political play for Daemon to put Rhaenyra in a position to compromise her so much that Viserys is forced to marry her off to Daemon, and then Daemon gets to be king anyway.
Right.
Which, we get that conversation with Viserys later. I think all of those ingredients are in the mix, and it's what makes Daemon such an interesting character, because I think that move that he makes right before they start to go at it, where he pulls the slouch beanie off.
Yes.
To make
Exposes
it so that
her.
everyone knows who this is down there. That seems like the part of Daemon that's like, I'm going to compromise her and then I'm going to get what I want.
I was almost bummed out that Otto had such an obvious, like the kid hanging outside, because it would have been really funny if someone was like, Otto, I saw the princess at a pleasure house, and people were like, well, were you at the pleasure house? And the guy would be like,
Oh God!
But I mean, that's the thing, and that's what Viserys and Viserys says. So what? When Otto's like, the princess is at the pleasure house. He's like, so what? And then I love how you were making Chris do the play-by-play, much the way that Viserys is like, you got to say it, Otto. If you're gonna walk into my room and accuse my daughter of something,
scenes.
You gotta do the whole thing. But he's
speak
like,
it plainly. Yeah.
He's like, so what if she was there? And then he's like, well, she was, fucking her uncle publicly. That's a bummer. But so I guess the rules are she can go and observe. And there were many like well-dressed lords there. So it's like, it's not a problem to be in the pleasure house. It's a problem as a royal woman to lose your virginity before the political marriage that you're supposed to have. So,
Mal, any comments on Daemon's performance anxiety?
Many, most of which I'm afraid to make on a podcast. I think you two summed it up well. I thought that the flimsy nature of the disguise was notable to me as well, even before he removes the beanie, because we have this moment where Rhaenyra, fleeing from the flamin' hot Cheeto vendor, runs into a member of the Gold Cloaks who recognizes her immediately. Like, it's no secret that they will be recognizable. These are two of the most recognizable people in the entire world. Daemon himself, whether he actually said heir for a day, is not relevant. I mean, it is more broadly, but in this sense is not. What's relevant is that his exploits in pleasure houses make their way back into the Red Keep, and he knows that. And so he brought her into that situation knowing that. I think that is true. I also think it's true, as you said, that they have genuine passion for each other. These are people who are drawn to each other magnetically. The way when she is on the marriage tour, receiving all of these suitors she has no interest in, what is she doing? She's holding the necklace that he gave her. When he walks in, fresh haircut, shiny armor, grayscale riddled crab feeder hammer in his hand, she is looking at him with lust in her eyes, and he looks at her with much the same expression in the Godswood later. So they are drawn to each other. You can feel that magnetism in that sequence. The exact play-by-play of what is unfolding with the removing of the hat, the kissing, pinning against the wall. I have such detailed notes on this scene, you would not believe it.
Save it for the deep dive.
Deep dive for that. Fear not. Taking off opening her shirt, taking down her pants, turns her around on the wall, then she turns back to kiss him, and that's when he pulls away. And I think it is a mixture of...
Do you think we could put the old BS report warning at the top of House of R this week, where it's like, this is a free-flowing conversation that occasionally touches on mature topics?
The BS report is a free-flowing conversation that occasionally touches on mature subjects.
That's a good idea. It's a good idea. You know, we did see him in episode 1 under what Joe and I have subsequently taken to calling his cloak of shame. So he has had some performance issues before, and that's okay. It happens. Nothing to be ashamed of
it out
at all.
because it seems like an issue for him, and that's you know.
I would say that Daemon is a character riddled by desire, or driven by desire, but riddled by self-doubt. And I think that this scene embodies a lot of that, but so does his subsequent conversation with Viserys in the throne room later.
After talking with you two, I am convinced that his ultimate goal, is I knew if I did this, we would get caught because I was going to expose us, and that this is what Viserys would say, and that this is the only way I could reveal to him what the choice should be, which is to marry me off to her and create the super Targaryen.
The thing he says in the book, which is even a little tougher than what he says in this episode, he says,
"Impossible.
Give the girl to me to wife. Who else would take her now?" That's what he says to Viserys. But I think it's a little bit more
complicated. Shit, Dame, come on, man.
But I think it's more complicated than that, right? Mallory hit it.
All of that is there.
Yeah.
True. And hard to ignore. But I couldn't stop thinking about the conversation that Daemon and Rhaenyra had after the welcome home party. Godswood, what a location for that little shindig.
They're getting as much use out of that werewood tree as they can. They're like,
really,
what can
really,
we
really
set under this tree? Yeah.
One of the things that Daemon says to Rhaenyra, and that is a really, really rich and intriguing conversation where Rhaenyra reveals and shares a lot about how she feels about marriage and childbirth and all of these very real things that are weighing on her deeply and that she is rebelling against. And one of the things that Daemon says to her is, you cannot live your life in fear or you will forsake the best parts of it. And I think that that is as central to his character and as central to what is unfolding here as the ambition and any sort of scheming or striving, because he's like a very spirited person. And it's a lot of this second son, little brother energy where so much of his life has been defined by needing to prove his worth and trying to earn other people's affection and doing the things that makes him happy. The way that he says, fucking is a pleasure, that's a person who means that and spends a lot of his time living inside of that idea. And I think that that's a thing that he wants Rhaenyra to embrace and really experience too. But more than one thing can be true at once. That's why he's an interesting character. To hear more from this conversation, follow the Ringerverse on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.